Hello, all. Welcome to our penultimate edition of the Growth Lab. We are so very excited to chat with you today and talk a little bit more about the end of the year and what that looks like, that Q4 nightmares. Is your sales team haunted by a lack of innovation? So, with me today, as always, we have Anne-Marie Wills and John French. They're going to walk us through this webinar presentation today and really dive into what this looks like. What should we be thinking about at the end of the year? As always, please feel free to utilize the webinar chat feature to send us questions as you have them. We will keep an eye on that. And if we have time at the end, we will make sure to go ahead and answer those questions. And this webinar will also be recorded and sent to you afterwards for future use. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Anne-Marie and John to get us going.
Thank you. So usually at this time, we have a very quick conversation about who Leverage Lab is. And for those of you who don't know us, where we're coming from is that Leverage Lab is a revenue partner for B2B and B2C media companies. We help them generate new revenue with rich audience data. We're bringing the full solution, everything from data management to pre-built campaign programs, sales training and enablement, reporting and analytics, and we're really here to help you get to revenue fast. But today we want to kind of go a little step further, something that we don't really talk about when we're on this particular webcast is our brand relationship. So Leverage Lab has a number of different brand customers. These are the folks that fundamentally many of you are trying to have as advertisers in your publication. So I bring this up, and we're putting a little bit of an emphasis on this today because of the fact that Leverage Lab gets to have a little bit of a unique purview and a perspective because we work with so many brands. Aside from our direct brand customers, we've also been developing and delivering content marketing programs on behalf of our publisher partners for the last 7 years, as long as we've been around, and have served more than 2,500 brand customers with these content marketing programs. So we've got a really unique perspective here, I think, that we can help bring some additional insight around what brands are really looking for. What are they needing in the marketplace today? I'll toss it over to you, John, to go over the agenda.
Yeah, and also part of, and good to see you again, Emery. And by the way, anyone who knows me knows that all the cool graphics that are put in because of the Halloween holiday coming up, I didn't do it. I wouldn't know how to do it, but I like them a lot. So it's kind of, but also trying to be a little bit playful. And when we get into the first part of the webinar, you're going to see how playful we plan on getting. I would just echo what Anne-Marie said. It occurred to us as we were talking about this webinar is when I started working more deeply as an advisor and partner with Leverage Lab and Anne-Marie, I didn't realize the other side of the company was so successful in brands, direct to brands. And you saw the slide, and there's some highly recognizable companies in there, including Procter & Gamble. I didn't know that. And Wawa, by the way, it depends on where you live in the country, but Wawa is those stores on the highways that you go in and buy food that you probably shouldn't buy. But when you do, if you're a part of the loyalty program, it pings right back to Leverage Lab, and a whole menu of things are sent back to you. It's really unique technology. And the reason we bring that up, I think for the publishing end of things, I think hopefully the appreciation of the sophistication of this platform and how you can use it. So with that, we'll move a little bit away from, Leverage Lab. We'll talk about the world today and what we're going to do today. Growth Lab Theater presents. You're going to love this, or you're not. We'll see, but we'll give it our best shot. And I'll get into that in a minute. Industry insights from the brand perspective, which I just talked about. And then we do have, as we always do in these webinars, we think key takeaways. So when you leave at the end of the 30 minutes, you'll know more than when you got here. Okay, we're going to open the curtain, our third quarter budget planning session where a media sales representative is meeting with an agency buyer. In this case, I'll be the sales rep because I have been for decades, no matter what position I held. And my name is Larry, and I'm Larry the sales rep. And I'm going in to see Anne-Marie, and we're going to reenact what we think is a sales call that's probably happening a lot. Or if it isn't happening, disclaimer, if it isn't happening in your company, it probably will soon. And not to be too cute here, but the fourth quarter nightmare is really for your sales folks if they don't have the right products or knowledge to sell. So with that, we'll go into our role play. So, Anne Marie, good to see you again. It's been a while. I'd like to talk about the third quarter and the strong performance that we provided for you, and we're really proud of that. And I'll just do a quick kind of verbal summary, and then we can go into what you want to do in the fourth quarter. In the third quarter, with your combined campaigns for everything you had on our site to the downloaded webinar white pages, we had a podcast in there. We had all this stuff going on. And by the way, we really want you to know you're an important partner to us. So we work hard for all our clients, but especially for you because you've been loyal to us and we want to make sure you're happy. So I'm happy to report that in the third quarter, cumulatively, we have and we'll finish out delivering to you over 1,000 leads. 1,000 leads, and it's fantastic. It's that number is better than most of our clients, if not all of them. What we were a little bit short about a month ago, and by about 150 or something like that. And I really felt that there was a psychological threshold to hit that 1,000. So I got to tell you, I don't know how those guys do it, but all of a sudden, all these extra leads came in, and I don't know, but they have that magic to go out and find people and do it really fast. But we hit that 1,000 leads, and we're very proud of that. We hope you are as happy with them as we are.
Well, Larry, thanks for overviewing Q3. I do want to share some insights that I got from my sales team about those leads. So a lot of the feedback that I got was that, when they called those leads, they really didn't realize or remember that they had ever downloaded that white paper, or that webinar, or any of our content marketing. In fact, some of them were a little ticked off and felt like they were being called out of nowhere. So my sales team, they're not very happy. So I hate to tell you that, I think we're going to have to make some significant changes if we're going to continue here into Q4 and next year.
Would it be possible if we kind of went back and researched those leads and find that out, or do you think you've already done that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the next step is for those leads. I mean, we've loaded them all into our CRM, so they're sitting there waiting to be, continuously nurtured by our marketing team. So I'm not sure what more we can do there, or what more you can do there. I would love to share with you though, like what our goals are for next year.
Sure.
Would you like to hear some of that? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So our organization has come through with a really strong mandate for me, that essentially everything that we do with our media campaign has really got to be focused on driving our business and marketing objectives. So we're really adjusting everything that we look at from a metrics perspective and a measurement perspective to align more closely to real commercial outcomes for the business. So in 2025, and that includes Q4, as we're planning for 2025, we really are there to drive net new insert customer type here. So our objectives are really going to have to include increasing awareness and consideration among that customer type. We really have to think about how are we going to show that we're increasing the brand momentum, that our brand is actually moving and increasing in awareness. How are we going to increase our lead to sales opportunity conversions? So how are you helping us move people from that lead status into an actual opportunity? We need you to help us increase moving stalled people, folks that have disengaged into more engaged conversations. And at the end of the day, we need to see that among our two really high value audience targets. Those are going to be our net new customers, and then folks that are already engaged and in market. So that's what we're really looking for you to help us do. What do you think about all of that?
I think it sounded great, actually, but I'd have to talk to the digital folks about that, because those are changing goals. Is there any way, can I have a copy of this or something like that so we can work on it? And the other question, is anyone else doing that for you? Or is you getting that information from any other publisher?
Well, I mean, we've spent the last 3 years really investing in our own technology stack, investing in our own data. And we really have a very good touch on our marketplace. Like we know pretty much everybody that's out there that can buy our product and capability. So getting new leads in to the CRM really isn't the goal here. Like what I'm looking for is real insight and real intention signals that I think are really powerful when they come from a publisher partner like you. So if there's a way that you can find in your world, in your ecosystem to deliver more of that insight, I'm going to find that really, really valuable.
Okay, well, I'll do my best to come back with those answers. Just a final takeaway, you mentioned the fourth quarter. Does that mean we're not getting any business in the fourth quarter that we planned?
Yeah, I don't need more leads, Larry. The leads that we got, I'm just not getting good feedback about them. So I'm going to pull the budget until we can figure out how we can address the goals that we have for the business going forward.
Okay, well, we'll do our best, Emery. We appreciate that.
Thanks.
Okay, and we can break a roll now. Yeah. And get back, and there's a couple of things there. One is, we can't tell you who, but Emery, could you tell a little explanation behind those goals and how they were developed?
Absolutely. These came directly off of an RFP that one of our publisher partners has shared with us. And I will also share that it's not unlike other RFPs that we're continuing to see coming from very large advertisers with very, very significant budgets. You know, these are the types of, I'm not going to disclose which partner shared this with us or who the advertiser is, but it's a name that you know, and you would definitely, as a publisher, want to capture revenue from an advertiser of this size. So I think what this illustrates is that there is absolutely budget available from very large advertisers with very large opportunities for us, but they're asking for a level of sophistication that some of us just can't meet.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a couple of takeaways there. You know, the buyer, Anne Marie, said something that is vitally important. Well, we've spent the last 3 years saturating our market. We hear that a lot. And it may not be true, but even assume for a second it is true. The fact is, the volume of leads coming in is not nearly as important as finding new net, opportunities. That's number one. Number two, poor Larry just lost a quarter worth of advertising, and that's going to rattle sales teams once that gets around. And so I think that's obviously another driving force behind being able to lift that data. And then the third takeaway from that, and we tried to graphically or not graphically, visually show it. If the buyer feels that they don't want leads and they're not getting it from the publishing partner, what she told Larry was, I'm marginalizing you and your company. You're not providing anything to me of value. Therefore, you're a nice guy. I've known you for a long time, but I'm sorry, you're out of the house because what I need is this that's lifted up here. And I think, in terms of sales enablement, and we've said this many times in these webinars, salespeople, that scenario we just went through, that's the worst nightmare. No puns intended, but that is the worst nightmare for a salesperson. I go in, I have business booked. The buyer suddenly changes direction and goals. I lose the business. And frankly, I know my publishing company can't provide that stuff today. That could take years. And so what do I do? And that's a real challenge that, I think is real. Real challenge is real. We see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have to call out, somebody popped in the Q&A and said they felt like they stumbled into an actual call. It really felt like she said, it really thought I stumbled into a client call where they pulled the budget. Yeah, it's happening. So here at Leverage Lab, we have this I guess, a little example that we like to pull out when we talk about this idea of maturity from the media side and from the brand advertiser side. The reality is that brand advertisers, especially the larger, more sophisticated ones, they have high expectations. On this scale of being an adult, an adolescent, and a child, there are a lot of brand advertisers out there that are full-on adults. They've invested in their tech stack. They own their own data. They really understand at a deep level how where everyone in their ecosystem is from a customer journey perspective. I have a funny example. One of our brand customers, who is a B2B technology company, we were working with them to essentially identify sort of content related to their specific customer journey stages. And we asked them the question, how many pieces of content do you have across your entire brand? And they said 10,000 pieces of content. Coincidentally, we were in the middle of a bit of a technology project with an existing publishing partner who had 10,000 pieces of content. These people are publishers on their own right.
Yeah, it's true.
They are looking for, when they look at partners in the media space, they're looking for people who can match them at that adult level. If they look at you and they see you as somebody who's sort of, on the verge of being able to provide more, rich intent signals, customer intent, behavioral insights, but you're not quite there, or they look at you and you're nowhere near that, they're going to see you as a child or a baby. And, fundamentally, what can you really get there? I think that my hypothesis is that many of these sophisticated buyers are looking at us and buying the most commoditized thing that they can find, and that is leads. So just more intention signals that they can pipe into their own CRM systems to help them with their own nurture and their own customer journey. So, that puts us into a highly commoditized position.
Yeah, and we've mentioned this in previous webinars, but it reminds me of when those brands many years ago started launching their own sites, right? In the beginning, they would go to the publishing sites to find leads. And then they would, because there was good content there and everything that went with it. But then they decided, well, I can do this. I can go out and reach and find those people. And that's what the concern here is with these brands get smarter and smarter. To your point, 10,000 pieces of content. It's not going to be anywhere as good as a good publisher. But we'll talk about that in the next slide.
Well, yeah, and I think, honestly, the job is different. A brand can only nurture a customer at certain parts of the customer journey. Early in the customer journey, the buyer is looking for agnostic, unopinioned information. They're looking for insight. They're trying to learn about what the problems are that exist in their world. And the place that they go for that is the publisher. A brand can really only nurture at the end of the cycle, where it becomes more like, I've made my decision. Now I'm ready to sort of put the buying process into high gear. So, the position that we hold as publishers in this space is so critical to the buying process. It can't exist without it. But brands do believe that, they can, a lot of them believe that they can do it themselves. What I'm showing here is an illustration. There's a publication out there called MarTech, which covers, the world of marketing technology. And every year they put out this, I guess you could call it a competition. It sort of looks like a competition, but essentially they put out a call to brands and ask them to visualize their own technology stack. So they call it the Stackies, and they give out awards. And
The Stackies.
The Stackies, yeah. Doesn't that remind you of Dunder Mifflin? What was that? The Dundies, the Office. But yeah, there's a competition, and they give out awards for the ways that these companies articulate their marketing technology stacks. But when I look at the Stackies, what I see is brands really showcasing the depth of their own investment, their own sophistication, their own intelligence in terms of how they go about their own marketing. This is Verizon Business. I picked Verizon Business because we've actually done campaigns for some of our publishers for Verizon Business. And so it was really, a nice connection. But you can see, like they've heavily invested in every component of their own customer journey from awareness all the way through to partnership. And, as you look through the stackies, one of the things that I find that's really, really missing is the mention of publishers. Where do
Yeah.
they live in this concept of their technology stack? So it's a challenge, right? To be able to, integrate your capabilities into and alongside, I guess, partners that are really investing in their own customer journey management.
Yeah, also that's great. By the way, I love the. I'm not really Michael had done the Mifflin what it was, but it was a funny show.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this also illustrates another thing that it's interesting that I don't think brands. Let me start again. We're Emery and I are great fans and proponents of publishers. So sometimes when we give advice, it may be like a little bit, well, you think you need to do this, or maybe a little bit critical. We're big fans, and will be. It's interesting. I don't think most brands think of a publisher as MarTech, right? They think of it as media, which they are different, but I'm not sure they would even come up to your point, even in thought in this thing. And so if we go to the next slide for a second, we're going to talk about the publisher themselves and the company. And the quick look at here is that a leader in the space, you have to have an understanding of what your brand is. And we're talking about the brand now of the publishing company, not the brand that you want to sell to. But I'm gonna get my brands mixed up here. But the brand that you're selling to, how do they view your brand as a publisher? And it's really important. So, and the reason being is that then you want them to establish a level of respect of what you do and what you provide. And those companies could have 10,000. I said I'd talk about it a little bit later, and now I'm doing it. Those companies may have 10,000 pieces of content, but in almost every case, if the content is doing its job in the publisher, it's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as compelling. It's not overlaid with the brand of whatever the website is, or what was the magazine before. That brand is really important to you, and we think going forward. In this quote, if you go through the quote, and how about if I give the background afterwards, or the foreground, or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we were having a conversation with a really big publishing enterprise, one that we all know. And they were talking about sort of this, fairly recent, I should say, sort of bent toward high volume lead production, the outsourcing of a lot of that lead production to third parties. And we were just kind of exploring this, conceptual, or this concept with this individual at this publisher. And he just said the most stunning thing. Essentially, he said, as the leader in our space, we should be setting the bar for how we understand our audience. We don't want to, we're the big fish. We deliver more value. We leverage more audience. We've got the biggest ecosystem, but we're going outside and we're buying all of these lists like many other businesses do. But those efforts are not really based in our audience. And so, that really has an impact on my brand. Like if I'm delivering leads and I get that kind of input, like Larry got from the media buyer, that, oh my gosh, you might be the, 10-foot tall and bulletproof brand in your space, but these leads, these people don't have any context for what they think they've signed up for. There's no connection to me as a brand. That now I'm talking about the brand buyer.
Right.
There's no connection to me at all. Like, what does that say about my publishing brand if that's the issue? So, the more powerful we are, the more impactful it becomes to be able to deliver the kinds of insights that we need to deliver about where people are in their customer journey. So, it just was a really stunning statement to think about it from the perspective of the brand quality the brand, the publishing brand, and how this was impacting their overall, perspective in the market.
Yeah, it was great. I was in on that conversation with Anne Marie. And at the end of the conversation, we both kind of on the side said, did you hear what they said? That it was like, we don't hear it enough in the publishing side to say, I want to have the best data, the best products. We hear, I want to have the best content. I want to have the best events. I want to have the best, list, everything else. But I don't hear a lot of, I am not going to deliver low quality leads anymore because that impacts my brand as a publisher. And that was the big takeaway for that.
Mhm.
Okay. And we're actually on time. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're not going to go over this time.
What's that?
I said, we're not going to go over this time.
No, but this is good. So anyhow, I want to run through some of the takeaways. Many brands are seeking adult relationship and don't be a baby. We're talking about the brands and and the publishers to some extent, but we won't. But what you want to be, which people have been telling me my whole life, you want to be an adult, I guess. But that's self-explanatory. We went through it. Do you know where your audiences are? That's really important. Do you know where they are? You know where they are if they're in your ecosystem, but do you know where the audience extension and other sources of that? Emery, anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, just what we're trying to articulate here is, can you drill into and understand where all of your different audience members are in terms of their awareness of the brands in your space? Like, can you uncover and show and quantify how connected your audience is to the brands that are spending money with you? That's what the brand partners want. They want evidence. They want
Right.
some sort of sign of life. And
Literally.
the sign of life, I think this, again, my hypothesis, but I think that the leaning in on so often to the lead is because it is a really strong sign of life. It is at least foretold to be, or presented as a real connected user, somebody who has made the connection to your brand. So if we're delivering that sign of life, and then when it's followed up on and there is no sign of life, yeah, that is an impact on your brand as a publisher.
Yep. And the big well, all the big takeaways, but this one in particular to the publisher. It's now our responsibility to drive outcomes. You think of that. All we have to do is go find someone, drop them in a database, and then the brand takes it from there. They're depending on us to actually help drive the closing of the commerce of the business. That's a big responsibility, and that's changed. Evaluate your current offerings. Obviously, we say that all the time. Are you built to just be a mass production of mediocre leads? Or are you really trying to go for quality, real quality? Or is it, in my opinion, I think media companies now need to change, and publishing companies. It used to be you could produce a lot of leads, you think of things in mass and volume. Now I think our roles are becoming much more defined, more surgical, actually, when we go into our audiences. And it's not important to deliver a lot of people. It's important to deliver now the right people. And that number may be a lot smaller than it used to. And that's what we got.
Amazing. Any other thoughts on kind of the idea of RIP basic reporting metrics, to kind of toss that in there as a little note on our zombie theme, but truly, as we're talking about this, we're saying, you need to show these signs of life. So can we speak a little bit to the idea of, how we have that reporting and why that is so important to move past basic metrics?
Yeah, definitely. I think, at the end of the day, when a company says to you, I want you to be able to tell me, for this particular group of high value targets that live in your world, I need you to tell me like how engaged they are with you. That's a question we should be able to answer.
Right.
And we should be able to answer it in data. And what it really requires is that we have an organized set of data to work from. And once we do that, connect all of our campaign reporting with our audience so that we now can be able to say, at the individual level, a person has engaged here, 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 and here.
A
And
sign of life.
at all the signs of life. Exactly. Yeah. What it is possible and it can be done. And then when that is possible, you can now start to have that more like adult conversation about, yes, we can deliver those signs of life to you, and help you better understand, where people are. We're both trying to do the same thing fundamentally,
Right.
trying to get people to engage with a brand. We're doing it from our point of view. They're doing it from their point of view. And, ultimately we're working on the same goals. So when we can collaborate and say, we got them this far and now you need to pick them up here, or these guys still need a lot of nurturing. Let's keep them back here and keep doing the things that we can do within our ecosystem. That's really what we're talking about. It's really it's collaboration at the end of the day.
Love that.
Rather than delivery and then leaving on the part of the publisher.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and that helps you with that content is king and kind of keeping that loop rolling and being able to look and see what's working, what's not, what do people want right now? Huge. Well, perfect. Well, we are right at time. So I will make one quick note that we have a final webinar for this year. I have no idea how it's November, but we're almost there. On what's working in B2B media, first party data and monetization for 2025. So we will have our partners, pardon my words, from audiences join us so that we can kind of get an understanding of what people are talking about across the pond, what kind of things are up in segmentation, and how we really utilize these high value segments to move the needle. So we will see you all here on November 21st, and we really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And thank you both, John and Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, all.